What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Face Off Sports Network. I'm Anthony Servino, joined by Steve D'Angelo at Fantasy Savvy. We're here, Week 13, Waiver Wire Live Q&A. We'll answer your waiver questions, probably even some early start sit questions. We have Thanksgiving coming up on Thursday, but we have a lot going on. Some fantasy playoffs have already started. Scott Fishbowl, FFPC, gets rolling this week. Last week was a Scott Fishbowl. I got eliminated, unfortunately, but I lost Dak Prescott and a lot of other players on his team. I was probably lucky to even make it that far. But then the actual fantasy playoffs, we are what, Steve, 2 weeks away?
Yeah, 2 more weeks. And then weeks 15, 16, 17. And this week is crazy, especially for, content producers, because there's so much. You got the Thanksgiving slate, and then you got the regular slate. And there's also a Black Friday game as well. So very busy week this week. And yeah, 2 weeks left. So this is getting crazy. All this time and energy we put into this, and our girlfriends and our wives and our family, like, what the hell are you doing? Why are you doing all this? So we're trying to make it all worth it in the end. So this is still crunch time, and we got to get it going. So let's get into it.
All right. So we have Zach in here. We have Greg and Albert, but no questions yet. So, Steve, what do you want to talk about? While we wait for questions to come in, I'll get this shared on our Facebook group, which is pushing just about 85,000 members. Okay, let's announce we have a jersey giveaway.
Yes.
To where if you go on our Twitter, I know Pete tweeted out, I'm pretty sure it's on a face-off handle. There's a couple of actions you have to do to enter, notably subscribing to this YouTube channel, and we are giving away an NFL jersey of your choice. So for anybody who's not subscribed, especially, this is something you want to jump in on.
Yeah, 100% jersey of your choice. I mean, it's not like you're locked in anything, so you can pick whatever the hell you want.
I just saw while we're waiting, we have Tyler in here. But Tyler, before we get to you, I just saw a news feed come over my phone that the Kansas City Chiefs are expected to rotate running backs between Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. This doesn't surprise me because Pacheco, they want to ease him back in. Kareem Hunt has been effective. The Chiefs are thinking Super Bowl. But what do you think? How long is this going to last? Is this something that we see continuing through the NFL playoffs, or is this going to be, hey, 2 weeks, let's get Pacheco acclimated, and then we're going to unleash him?
Yeah, I mean, you could see it this week because they're playing the Raiders. They're a 13-point favorite. So, yeah, it makes sense to kind of ease Pacheco back in. But I do think Hunt will kind of maintain some sort of a role going forward, similar to what we saw with a little bit of Carson Steele in the beginning of the year and P. Ryan, but maybe more so than that because Hunt certainly has played well. He's, he told Andy Reid that he wasn't going to let him down, and he's been very solid. So, but I do think they'll probably gear up Pacheco this week, and then going forward, maybe like 70-30, 75-25, something like that, gearing, up towards Pacheco is my best guess.
Now, obviously, if the Chiefs start they lost to Buffalo, but if they can somehow lock up the number 1 seed early, then I'm sure they're going to rest Pacheco. But if they get in a situation where they lose control of that and Hunt isn't effective, Pacheco, I would say we want to buy Isaiah Pacheco for the fantasy playoffs. And I think this report is going to suppress his cost even more.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. But yeah, I mean, you can't overreact too much. Again, they're playing the Raiders. Then they get the Chargers, Cleveland, Houston, Pittsburgh for the fantasy. Actually, Houston, Pittsburgh, Denver for the fantasy playoffs. So, yeah, I agree. Eventually, Pacheco is going to start turning it up, and will be as usual. Isaiah Pacheco running with the fierceness. But Hunt is definitely going to still be a bit of a part of that. And in certain matchups, you could probably still use him as a flex play.
Yeah. So, Steve, you want to read off the questions? We'll get into it. I think we have a few hanging in there now.
Yeah, we have Greg in here, Alan here, Tron Force, and Tyler leads us off. He says, thoughts on grabbing Jordan Mason, backup for the 49ers. I mean, if you're a McCaffrey owner, why the hell not? And it's still a good handcuff. You still kind of want to stash players, especially elite handcuffs like Mason. We already saw what he could do earlier in the year. Garendo's still there. So maybe if McCaffrey got hurt again, Garendo would still kind of have a bit of a role. So maybe Mason's value isn't as much as it was prior. But I would say, if you need to win now to get into the playoffs, you can't really afford to stash players, I guess, at this point. You got to just get guys in your roster that are going to get you into the playoffs. But if you're breezing in, you're already in the playoffs, you're a top seed, you're a McCaffrey owner, then that's where I like to put a guy like Jordan Mason on my team. And especially if you have some waste, if you have a garbage guy and there's nothing really else out there, yeah, go pick up Mason.
Yeah, I think Mason, depending on your situation, if you have an expendable roster spot or if you have McCaffrey, as Steve was saying, you want to pick up Jordan Mason. McCaffrey, I don't know if it's the 49ers, but they don't look right offensively. And I get that Purdy did not play, but McCaffrey's now been back 3 games. He has yet to score a touchdown. He's been under 15 PPR points in each game. And I think he's roughly right around 14 touches in the past 3 games as well. The good thing, you get Buffalo, Chicago, the Rams, all easier matchups for running backs in the next 3 games. But if there was ever a time to buy low on McCaffrey, I would do that now. Maybe some fantasy managers who have him or it might be spooked. And hey, what if he's not healthy? What if he goes on IR again? What if the 49ers keep losing and they hang it up for the year? But yes, for that reason is enough for me to say, hey, if Jordan Mason's on waivers, pick him up.
Yeah. And McCaffrey, this might be the week because, Purdy's expected to come back probably. They're still right there for the division. They could still win this division. It's right there. They're only a game back. So, this would probably be the week to go get CMC. Tron4 says, actually, I'm sorry, Tim J says, should I drop Cousins for Caleb Williams or Will Levis? Your boy, Willie Levis, playing a little bit better of late. Are you dropping Cousins? I mean, we were talking about that last week, maybe dropping Cousins for other quarterbacks, but I don't think I'm dropping them for these two.
It's close because the last time we saw Kirk Cousins, and Denver has an excellent pass rush. We know Cousins is a statue anyway, and coming off the Achilles, I don't think that helps him. But they still have some good matchups upcoming. Levis is playing better. He's just over 20 fantasy points per game in his past 3 weeks, 5 total touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I think he's gone over 270 yards 2 times in the past 3 games. He's slinging it. His receivers are coming through, but I don't know if I'm ready to make that move for Levis. Even Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams does look better with the offensive coordinator change. It shocked me because, I know Minnesota's pass defense on paper is easy, but they still know how to get to the quarterback. Caleb Williams looked good. But I just think I trust Kirk Cousins more because with protection and the weapons he has around him, we've seen him pop quite a few times this year. So I don't know if I'm making that move.
Yeah, and then in the fantasy playoffs, he does get the Giants, Washington, and Carolina. Actually, I'm sorry, the Vegas, Giants, and Washington. So not bad, pretty good. Yeah, I think I got to keep Cousins, the veteran. Still got Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Bijan. You dump it off to him. Darnell Mooney as well. Now, Darnell Mooney had that hamstring injury, but it was good that they had the bye week. So hopefully he is back this week. Tron4 says, I offered Tyreek for Chase Brown, but they want more. My running backs are Barkley, Monty, Mostert. My other receivers are Kupp, McLaurin, JSN, Mooney, and D-Hop. Would offering Tyreek and D-Hop or Mooney be too much? Tyreek for Chase Brown, but they want more. Wow. So he's saying, does he have to level up and give Tyreek and D-Hop or Mooney to get Chase Brown? His running backs are Barkley, Monty, and Mostert. So, yeah. 2 good running backs there, but Mostert is, basically his season is shot at this point. His other receivers are Kupp, McLaurin, JSN, Mooney, and D-Up, so he's pretty deep there. So he can afford to trade Tyreek for sure for Chase Brown. Now they're talking about Khalil Herbert possibly Taylor's saying they don't want to totally wear and tear him down, but they're in the hunt for the playoffs. They need to win. Are they going to rely on Khalil Herbert, or are they going to rely on
That's how
Chase
I feel.
Brown? Yeah, exactly. So
if I think the fantasy manager with Chase Brown, again, he's been electric and effective. I think he's trying to fleece you a little bit. This is still Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
And we saw Waddle get going last week. And I get John who's getting all the hype. Like, the biggest constant in this offense is Devin Achane. There's a world where maybe John who takes a step back and Tyreek gets more involved. The only way I see Tyreek kind of staying in this purgatory, maybe, that injury is holding him back. Right? He has that ligament damage in his hand. That's the only thing. But, I don't think we're in a world where Tyreek Hill 1-for-1 for Chase Brown, like that. I don't know. It just seems like that should get it done because of what Tyreek Hill could potentially bring for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree as well. I mean, if you wanted to throw in D-Hop because you need the running back, I don't hate it, but at least ask him for something else back because, that should get it done. I mean, come on now. This guy, he's like, oh, let me see what else I can get. He's desperate. A little bit.
What about offering McLaurin and D-Hop? McLaurin has a bad matchup this week. He has quite a few games under 30 receiving yards. I remember a few weeks ago, he scored 2 touchdowns. He had 3 targets, 2 receptions for 20 yards. They were both touchdowns. This past week against Dallas, without that big play for the score, he has another bad week. This week he gets the Titans. Then you get a week 14 bye. I don't even know if you're going to, you can't use McLaurin for the next 2 games. Maybe McLaurin and D-Hop or McLaurin and Mooney, maybe that gets Chase Brown. I would see if you can finagle a little bit.
Yeah, I would counter with Mooney, D-Hop, and Mostert and give me Chase Brown. And then see what he says with that. Joe Carlton says, just want to thank Anthony for not letting me forget Saquon's ceiling during the draft season. $5. Appreciate that, Joe.
I remember that conversation. I think my narrative was comparing him to that CMC when CMC got traded because I saw so many parallels between the early careers of CMC and Saquon.
Yeah, you did say that. And Saquon, back end of those drafts, if you were the back end of the first round, I mean, that was the spot to take him. And I even did a draft that Saturday after that Thursday game where, he exploded and we saw the preview of what we saw this year. And I got him 10th overall, which was, basically a gift. And he's been absolute money. So if you have Saquon, this is like the yesteryear of fantasy running backs watching Saquon just absolutely dominate. 255 freaking yards last week. I mean, that's just unbelievable. All right, back to the questions here. And we have St. Louis fan, Mr. Discount, our boy from Twitch, says, good evening. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. I have an offer of if I give TJ Hawkinson at a mid-second round and I get Sam Laporta, should I take it? No.
So Hawkinson, he's been getting some volume in a mid-second. So this is dynasty, I'm going to assume. For Laporta, no. Now I think Hawkinson to me is the better tight end anyway.
Right, I agree. I think he's the better talent overall. I think he's the better tight end. Both out of Iowa, right? Hawkinson and Laporta. I think Laporta was the all-time leading receiver at Iowa with all those freaking tight ends, but I still like Hawkinson a little bit better.
Yeah.
Marky 219 says, do I add Austin Eckler after his injury? Bucky Irving, Jacoby Myers, Jordan Addison, Khalil Shakir, Rashad White, or Roshan Johnson over any of my current wide receivers or running backs, or Devontae Adams, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, Josh Downs, James Conner, or Jonathan Taylor in the PPR? And do I add Jared Goff over Mahomes in a PPR? Do I add Austin Eckler after his injury? Bucky Irving, Jacoby Myers, Jordan Addison, Khalil Shakir, Rashad White, or Roshan Johnson over any of my current receivers or running backs, who are Devontae Adams, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, Josh Downs, James Conner, or Jonathan Taylor?
I mean, I don't mind adding Austin Eckler just to have him. and stopping somebody else from picking him up and using him against you on an effective running game. Who knows what's going on with Brian Robinson's lower body? He missed some time
Did you
early.
see
He
the
has the
Commanders are bringing in
ankle.
they're bringing in James Robinson and Boston
Really?
Scott? Yeah.
So that's an indicator
Yeah.
that maybe this is a longer injury than we think, or this could be an indicator that they both Eckler and B Rob are out this week. I know they have Rodriguez and McNichols, but you still need more bodies. But yeah, that's significant that they're going to work out these veterans. I think it could be a tell that this could be a longer term injury for B Rob, because usually when a player comes back and then they have to leave again, that's never a good sign.
Yeah, and he's been struggling with these injuries for
Yeah,
quite a while. He's kind of been playing through it.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, talk about James Robinson and Boston Scott. It definitely is worrisome. Zero Skills says, I have 100 in Fab. I still have 100 in Fab. I have Brees Hall, A-Chain, and Brian Robinson. Is Gus worth a shot in case Robinson doesn't start? It's to fill a second 2 RB spots and a flex. Amari Cooper, MVS, and Dowdle on the bench. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, why not? You want to add RB depth. J.K. Dobbins, there's no word on him yet. I don't know. Has there been any word on him with his
I haven't heard anything yet, but we know Dobbins has a lengthy injury history in his career. He's managed to stay healthy, but I'm a little bit concerned after last night, and I think you should be proactive. Gus Edwards, he scored, but I think he had like 9 carries for 13 yards.
Yeah.
He's obviously not an efficient running back. This isn't Baltimore where you're running next to Lamar Jackson and he's no longer that 5-yard per carry guy, but somebody's going to get that volume. They're probably going to mix in Hassan Haskins, but I think we're going to see if Dobbins does miss time, they're going to be throwing the football a lot more, despite that Greg Roman offense, because I don't see a world where you're giving Gus Edwards and Hassan Haskins 20 touches total.
Yeah, I mean, they'll probably bring up Vidal and maybe use him in the passing game. Kind of how they use Dobbins, in the passing game, because Haskins and Gus Edwards are not going to be used in the passing game. Yeah. So you have 2 weeks left to spend your fab. You have $100 left. I mean, you could spend $40, I guess, at this point. You got 2 weeks left. I mean, you want to spend it on something, right? So that may just get Gus Edwards. Yeah, a little depth. Just the thing is, how much can you really expect from him? Deet says Purdy is a free agent right now. Should I drop Stroud to add him? I'm the number 1 seed, so playing for playoffs right now. My other QB is Tua in a 12-team Superflex redraft league. Purdy is a free agent. Should I drop Stroud to add him? All indications are Purdy is going to be back this week.
That's what I'm seeing. And at the same time, CJ Stroud, I was out on him in fantasy this year. I thought he was way overpriced, and he just doesn't he looks like he's taken a not even a step back. He's taken a massive step back from his rookie year. I don't know if there's more game film on him. I don't know if it's
the protection. They're not protecting him well at all. Yeah. He's been under a lot of pressure, which is hurting him.
Whatever it is, he just doesn't look right. I would rather have Brock Purdy right now.
Yeah,
I think that's a move you make.
Yeah, I would too. The one concern you have is, obviously Purdy has the shoulder injury, but he did some light throwing today, they said, and he looked okay. There's positive reports. It is a super flex league. So, I mean, do you have to drop Stroud? Is there somebody else you could drop and keep the quarterback?
Super flex. Can you cap, or are you capped at 2? Some league settings, so you're not completely cornering the market, which I don't agree with, may cap you. Hey, you can only carry 2 quarterbacks. This way everybody can have some. I hate that, but maybe that's a situation here because it sounds like he only has 2 quarterbacks. Why wouldn't you have a third or a fourth?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I guess I prefer Purdy over Stroud. Their numbers are very similar this year. 13-8 for Purdy, 14-9 for Stroud. They've both had some injuries at the receiver position, but I do prefer Purdy overall. But again, we don't know what the full extent of his shoulder injury is. So if you can somehow keep Stroud, cut somebody else, that's the move, because obviously you want to add quarterbacks at all costs in a super flex league. I mean, I was picking up freaking Tommy DeVito last week. The week before that, I was picking up Mason, a couple weeks before that, Mason Rudolph, just to have that extra guy in there, just in case, he goes off for 20 points. Trump 4 says, in addition, the guy also has JT, Tyrone Tracy, and Pacheco coming back. I can trade for one of them if he doesn't want to trade Chase Brown. For the Tyreek trade. I mean, you could do it for JT as well. Would you do it for Tyrone Tracy or Pacheco, Tyreek, in that earlier trade we were talking about?
Would I do it for?
He was going to trade Tyreek for Chase Brown, remember? And the guy was saying it wasn't enough. So you do it for those guys too, JT, Tracy, and Pacheco, Tyreek?
Instead of getting Chase Brown?
Right.
No. Maybe Pacheco, but no. Chase Brown has been the only constant. No, who knows if Tyrone Tracy lost his job? He fumbled again, and they gave that goal line carry to Devin Singletary. I'm concerned about his job moving forward.
Yeah,
and I'm a Tyrone Tracy guy, but I'm legitimately worried about that now.
Tyler says, would you play Hunt and Pacheco on the same team? This week I probably would. But I don't know about going forward. But this week I would, because I think Hunt's going to give you, enough production against the Raiders. They should be able to run a decent amount. And I think Hunt's going to get a good amount of carries as they're working Pacheco back. So this week I would. Going forward, I don't know. We'd have to wait and see. But for this week at least, I don't mind it. Tyler Sperry, is Keon Coleman or Myers? Is Keon Coleman or Myers without Minshew?
So he's asking which one do we want, I guess.
I want Keon Coleman. I mean, he was just starting to really emerge those last couple games. And then he had that freaking wrist injury because the former Bill, what was that, Poyer, who freaking knocked
Jordan
him?
Poyer.
Yeah, he freaking ran right into his wrist like that. So he's been out, 2 weeks? Then they had the bye week this week.
He should be back.
Yeah, I want Keon Coleman. He was really starting to emerge, and they're just really starting to figure out the way, to use him properly. Debbie, a girl says, hey guys, need to pick up an RB for
is there more to the question?
Hey guys, who do you think is a better waiver wire pickup this week, McNichols or Gus Edwards? I like McNichols.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're bringing in Boston Scott and they're bringing in freaking James Robinson, but
that's depth. That's depth. McNichols has already been productive in this offense. I think he has 3 or 4 touchdowns already on a year. He's had 1 20-point game on the year already. So I see him being the guy this week if one or both those running backs are out.
Yeah, I agree.
It's Tennessee.
They do have Chris Rodriguez, but he's more like a plotter. He gets some goal line carries, but McNichols will catch passes. He looked pretty good. And, this Commanders team has been pretty good running the football all year. So that's the guy I want. And then also Stroud or Daniels this week need a W. So, I mean, off the top, I would say Daniels. The Commanders get the Titans this week and the Texans get Jacksonville. So that is a good matchup for Stroud. 43.5 total. Houston, Jacksonville, and Tennessee, Washington is 45. I still think I like Daniels, though.
So Daniels gets Tennessee, right? And Tennessee's a pretty good defense. And we saw pretty good defenses or really good defenses like Philly and Pittsburgh shut down Jaden Daniels. Meanwhile, you have Stroud, who struggled this year. His best game came against Jacksonville, goes for over 25 quarterback points, 345 yards passing, 2 touchdowns back in week 4. I might roll the dice on CJ Stroud and get word down on him. But if there's ever a matchup to use him in, it's this week. And then another note on that question earlier, the Superflex question. Yes, he has a really nice spot this week. Then he has a bye in week 14. So for that question, that makes me edge the other quarterback even more. But for a 1-week spot start, I think I like Stroud over Jaden Daniels. My biggest worry in this Titans match, Jaden Daniels and this offense goes as the running game goes. They struggled against Dallas. Dallas's run defense is bad. you know, in my heart of hearts, I think if Brian Robinson did not get hurt on his first carry, Washington probably has a dominant day offensively because they were going to run Brian Robinson down Dallas's throat. So, like, is this offense going to be, and we like Jeremy McNichols, but is he going to be the same? Is he going to have the same effectiveness? Is this offense going to be the same with him against a good defense like Tennessee?
But without those running backs, do you think Daniels runs more? Malik Willis, 73 yards rushing against the Titans. Huntley, 40 yards rushing. Drake May, 95 yards rushing. Even Herbert and Darnold both got into the end zone. So good history of success for running quarterbacks here. Stroud has a great matchup against Jag. I mean, it's the best matchup you could possibly have. So they're both really good starts. I still like Daniels, but if you wanted to go Stroud, it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
Especially with Nico back in town, doing Nico things.
And they lost last week, right? Houston. So they kind of need to win.
Yeah, they lost to the Titans. The big survivor. A lot of people had the Texans that knocked a lot of people out last week.
Will Levis, man, he's coming on.
Willie Levis. Yeah, he is coming on a little bit. Calvin Ridley's been very, very solid. Again, guys, we're kind of going in order here. If you want to send us a super chat, bump the line. We appreciate that. Like, subscribe, and share. Join us all week, all the way up to Thanksgiving. I think, Anthony, you're going to do a show on Thanksgiving with Hoff, possibly. Maybe I'll squeeze in if I can. I got to make some pasta.
Early.
Head over to my brother's house.
I travel, but I usually do the Thanksgiving show every year. Whether I think Miner was on with me last year, but it's something we've always done here, so I'm going to keep it going. I usually like to do it like 9 or 10 a.m. because I also travel on Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, I have to go to my in-laws' house. One of the few times I will say, wish I had a migraine that day, and I hate migraines.
Well, we got football. We got football at noon, but then you wouldn't be able to enjoy Thanksgiving if you had a migraine. So.
Well, right. Unless I fake a migraine, and then I could just eat Chinese food and watch football at home with my cats.
Yeah, you could do that too. I mean, a year off from Thanksgiving is not the worst thing in the world. Jason Williams says, drop Javonte Williams for Cardinals, New Orleans D for the playoffs, have Houston D, or add Gus Edwards, Tank Bigsby. Running backs are AK, Alvin Kamara, Brees, Tracy, Bucky, Dowdle, and Javonte. Interesting. Do you want to drop Javonte Williams for one of these defenses? He does have Houston defense, which is pretty solid, and they're playing the Jaguars this week, which is a great matchup. But it sounds like he's already in the playoffs already, so he's got things signed, sealed, delivered. Sounds like.
So he says no defense for the playoffs, or is that New Orleans?
New Orleans defense. Either he wants to drop Javonte Williams and I guess prep ahead and add Cardinals in defense because they have good matchups, play some good matchups, or just roll with Houston defense, and then he could add Gus Edwards or Tank Bigsby along with that.
I mean, I would probably add Bigsby, even though. I just don't think Gus, unless he scores, he's not very efficient now. So even if Dobbins is out, we're looking at Gus Edwards as a touchdown or bust guy. I'm already seeing reports that Lawrence could come back, which is good for Tank Bigsby and that offense overall. But when it comes to the thing with Javonte, and maybe I'm jaded because I was in on Javonte this week and blew up in my face. He is so hard to predict. Sean Payton's so hard to trust. Is he a liability on your bench to where you see a good matchup, you start him, and he costs you a week and he costs you a playoff game? Yeah. I almost feel like for somebody the way I think, he might be a liability at this point because he's so unreliable.
Yeah. I don't know what the hell's. I mean, I didn't really see the box score in that game. Did he really do anything? He didn't do shit, right?
Do a damn thing. Nope.
Did Estimate get any usage this week, or they just kept him?
It was more like the leading runner was Jaleel McLaughlin.
Yeah, Payne's got to figure something out there. Just start to use Estimate a little bit more. I mean, how much been trying to use Javonte all year, and he hasn't really done shit. I'm looking at New Orleans defense here. Commanders, Green Bay, Vegas. Houston's matchups aren't that great in the fantasy playoffs, so I kind of see where you're coming from. They're playing Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore, so not great there. What was the other defense he was talking about here?
New Orleans.
Cardinals. Yeah. New Orleans is not great. The Cardinals, yeah, that looks pretty good. New England, Carolina, and the Rams. So yeah, I don't mind it, man. If you wanted to go for Arizona and drop Javante, as long as you have pretty good depth and you can afford it, I don't mind making that move.
Yeah, when it comes to snaps, Javante led with 55, but he only had 8. He had 10 touches, including 8 carries for 4 total yards. So it was another negative yard. So 2 out of his past 3 games carrying the football, he's netted 1 yard.
Brutal. Daniel Quintanilla says, "Hi, been 2-1 since being a subscriber. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. Question: should I keep Boswell rest of the season? Cyber is available. No, forget about Cyber. He just missed 2 extra points.
Yeah.
Why would you want?
And Boswell was kicking field goals in the snow in his sleep.
Oh my God, Boswell! They cannot score touchdowns, whether it was with Fields or freaking Russ. So yeah, you got to keep Boswell. I have Texans D. Packers are available. Should I change? I'm heading for the playoffs.
I kind of like the Green Bay defense.
Yeah, back to Green Bay here.
You know, they're winning football games by running the ball. This is like, if you remember when they had Rodgers and Adams, they were really a run-first team to open up the pass. And they, last year was a lot of Jordan Love. This year with Josh Jacobs, like they're going back to that, hey, let's play good defense, let's run it. We have to remember last year as well. I forgot the DC's name, but that defense was not good last year. They were getting lit up and they had to throw. The defense is playing good. They're running the football well. Jordan Love doesn't have to do a lot. He's a liability with turnovers. So like this formula, like they're back-to-back games where Jordan Love is completing 13 passes. In fact, he's completed fewer than 14 passes in 3 out of his past 4 games. All wins.
Yeah.
And then down the stretch, Miami, Detroit's obviously not a usable spot, but like fantasy playoffs, 15, 16, and 17, Seattle, New Orleans, Minnesota, like there's this Minnesota game could be a defensive battle.
Right. And
historically, Jair Alexander kind of shuts down Justin Jefferson, and Justin Jefferson is not playing good football right now. Probably not his fault, but Hawkinson's getting the volume.
Yeah, and Darnold's prone to turnovers. New Orleans, obviously, with Derek Carr, not great with their lack of wide receivers. And then Seattle, Geno's prone to turnovers as well. So, yeah, I like their matchups better than Houston's. Houston's matchups aren't really that great. Again, Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore. That is not good, So I don't like those matchups at all. You got to go against Tua and those guys, Mahomes, and then Lamar. So, yeah, I like Green Bay's defense the rest of the way. Shield says Bass or Shader or Lutz this week. I would refer you to Hoff's going to drop a kicker video tonight.
No, it's already out.
Oh, it's already out. So go check the YouTube page. He's got the recommendations on the kickers. I know he loved Lutz last week, and Lutz had a big week. Who the hell is Shader? I can't even keep
Schrader from Kansas City.
Okay, he's the Kansas City kicker now.
Yeah.
Can't even keep up with these freaking kickers anymore.
He's good.
So who do you like out of these 3?
I would probably go Lutz or Schrader.
Who's Lutz kicking for these days?
Denver.
Oh, Denver. Okay. Jesus, I can't keep up with these. I gotta be better on my kicker linguistics here.
Kansas City gets the Raiders, and Lutz gets Cleveland. I almost lean Lutz because that, defense plays decent defense sometimes. Cleveland plays decent defense sometimes, and maybe we see Denver stall out. Sometimes, I don't know. My read on this game, either Denver rolls them or it's one of those oddly close field goal battles. Like this could be another game like we saw Cleveland against Pittsburgh with these 2 teams where it's just a bloodbath and, it's like a 14-13 all field goals game or however many you need to get all field goals. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. My read on this is it could be a lower scoring bloodbath. And Lutz, he's going to win it with his leg.
Yeah, definitely. Cyber is supposedly on the IR now. So maybe he was a little banged up. Maybe he was banged up. I don't know. I didn't see anything like that. Trone Forest says, yeah, Commanders kicker Seibert was placed on the IR today, hence why he missed those extra points. Again, I had the Commanders in Survivor. I have a couple more picks, but I had them in Survivor, that McLaurin pass. And then we've seen that before. I don't know if you remember that onside kick that the Saints had like years ago. Remember that? I mean, not the onside kick, like that flea flick, that there were the constant pitchbacks. It was like that crazy sequence, and the guy missed the extra point, and they lost the game. And Jared says, just want to say happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate it, Jared. Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, man. Enjoy with the family, the football, and the food. And that's it for questions. We're caught up.
Yeah.
So what do you want to get into?
I don't know. We can talk about Thanksgiving Day games if you want.
Well, it is a waiver wire show, so we could, talk about some more of these options. What's that? All right. Well, Anthony took off somewhere. I'm not sure where the hell he went, but I would say one guy that sticks out is Devon Vele. I mean, this guy's been coming up a little bit. I was kind of looking at him in a lot of my leagues this week. I'm talking about Vele for Denver, the receiver, as a pickup this week. He's hit 4+ receptions in 5 of 8 games and in 3 straight, playing mostly in the slot. And, big receiver, rookie. He's been really solid. Bo Nix has been solid. So this is a guy that, he's not going to wow you with huge numbers, but he'll give you pretty solid production. And he could be more and more of a thing as we go on here. So that's a guy I'm kind of targeting in Devon Vele. What do you think about that?
Yeah, he's had 3 straight games over 10.6 PPR points, 4, 5, and 9 targets, season high 9 targets this past week, 6 for 80 yards. He's been ascending yardage wise, 39, 66, and 80. There's not a lot of pass catching options. It's Cortland Sutton and then a bunch of guys, but of those guys, I think Vele down the stretch, he could be the one to emerge. Big body slot receiver. It reminds me, I comp him kind of to Marquez Colston because he's that other big body receiver I can remember with Sean Payton or Michael Thomas. Obviously, Vele is not as talented as those guys, but he fits that body type to me.
Yeah.
Right? Colston was like 6'4", Vele's 6'5", and I think Michael Thomas is in that like 6'4", 6'5" range.
Yeah, remember Ashley Lilly for the Broncos?
Yeah. Wow.
He was like a 6'3" guy. I remember he was always good in Madden because he was like 6'3", like the 94 speed. Another one, Luke Schoonmaker. Again, doesn't look like Ferguson's going to play for Thanksgiving. And this guy has been getting it done. All double-digit fantasy points in all 3 games that Ferguson has missed this year. Mm-hmm. Good matchup. A decent match. I guess not the best matchup against the Giants, but he's been relied upon. The tight end is always a big piece in this offense. So that's another good pickup this week, in a pinch on Thanksgiving. Yeah,
Giants are the toughest matchup or second toughest matchup now on paper. They shut down Cade Otton, but that game, they didn't really need Cade Otton. Cade Otton was barely used. Tampa had control of that game. There's not a lot of options in Dallas, right? Pass catchers. Schoonmaker, he's going to be the number 2 as long as Ferguson doesn't come back. And Schoonmaker, you have to remember, he's a 2nd-round pick. He has 2nd-round pedigree. He's not a slouch. Right. And he's a very good tight end. And we're seeing now that he's getting the opportunity, we're seeing him come through. So, there's not a lot of good things that's going to come out of this season if you're a Cowboys fan or if you're the Cowboys. But you're getting to see, okay, who's our future? Next year we could be looking at some additional 2 tight end sets with Schoonmaker and Ferguson on the field.
Yeah, and he was picked ahead of Ferguson in the draft, wasn't he?
No, Ferguson was like a 2nd-year player. Schoonmaker was a 2nd-round pick last year.
Right, but I think Ferguson was a later round pick.
Yeah, he was a 4th.
Right. Yeah,
and depending on how long Ferguson's out, weeks 14 to 16, you got 3 of the easiest matchups for tight ends in Cincinnati. They're 31st, Carolina 32nd, Tampa 28th. So, get on Schoonmaker now just in case. Maybe they say, okay, Ferguson, we're going to hang you up too.
Yeah. Jared says, is the wide receiver from Tennessee, Westbrook Akine or Vele, a good wide receiver rest of the year in PPR? And Akine scores, again, so what is that, 6 out of 7 now he's scored.
Yep. And then he's been
Um,
over double-digit PPR points in 4 out of 5.
So, I mean, why not keep it going with this guy? All he does is score touchdowns, and he scores pretty much every week. I kind of like Vele, though, personally. I think it's very close. Maybe Nick Kinney's a little bit fluky with the touchdowns because he's not really doing much else. But what do you think here?
The rest of season schedule strong. Washington, Jacksonville, Cincy, Indy, and then fantasy championship, Jacksonville against. You got Jacksonville twice in there. That alone is very tempting. Will Levis again, like say he is playing good football. I think I would lean Westbrook.
Well, he did throw another pick 6 last week.
Well, but their offensive line has to tackle better. What can I say?
Now that schedule is juicy. Jacksonville twice, Cincinnati, who's leaking points, the Colts.
Yeah,
that's pretty nice.
And Ridley almost went off for a big one too.
Yeah, I mean they're done pretty much. I mean they're freaking done. So why not just let Fubu's, Levis just sling it, continue to sling it and go downfield? That's his strength. See what he could really do. Just open it up. So yeah, I don't mind that. Denver, they also have a bye week 14, and then they get Indy, the Chargers, and Cincinnati. So not a bad, similar teams. They two of the similar teams there that they play, Indy and Cincinnati, but they have the bye. So yeah, maybe Westbrook Akine is the guy there.
Yeah.
Out of the two. Tron 4 says someone rage dropped Waddle before he went off last week. I have Tyreek, but thinking about putting in a waiver. Yeah, I mean, 100%. You got to go after Waddle. I know he's been so frustrating, but
because Waddle, there's not often times where on waivers you have a player that can go put up 30 points. Mm-hmm. It may not happen again, but this is strategic fantasy football. Do you want your opponent to pick him up and it happens to be that other week he goes off? It was when people were rage dropping Mark Andrews earlier this year. Why? And people were doing that. People were dropping Mark Andrews. People drop good tight ends. People drop good players thinking that they're washed or they're phased out. Don't do that with Jalen Waddle. He's there. You got to pick him up because, again, what did he go for? 28.4 last week, 8 for $144 and 1. There's not many of these guys. We like Westbrook Akine. We like Vele. Those guys aren't going for 30.
No. Yeah. Anytime you got a player like Waddle, you got to go and at him and just hope for the best. He could, maybe he starts to get it going a little bit here. But Miami's on fire right now. Yeah. Bang and Play says, should I trade AJ Brown for Achane PPR? I would do it. If you need a running back, especially, I think Achane is going to be more consistent. He's just so involved in the passing game. It's just ridiculous. He's catching touchdowns. He's passes every single freaking week. He's such a huge part of this offense. So he's going to be a little bit more consistent for you the rest of the way. I would do it.
Achane might be a top 3 draft pick next year overall. I don't think that's a hot take. He's been not only proven durable this year, but he's being proven durable, getting an uptick in volume. Where is? I thought I pulled up his profile. I want to see where he is on a touch per game basis, but he's getting 15.1, so he's not getting a ton more volume, but he's. People worried about his size. Can he handle this many touches? And he's showing that he can. And there's been times this year he had 22 rushing attempts, 17 rushing attempts, 15 rushing attempts. And then there's those games where they're getting him involved in the passing game as well. So I think I'd rather have Achane rest of the way. Every game but one that Tua has played with Achane, he's gone for 20 points. Jacksonville, Buffalo week 2, Arizona week 8 with Tua back. I think he was back that week. Buffalo week 9, week 10 against the Rams, you only had 10. But that was that weird Monday night or primetime football game where both offenses look weird. And then the past 2 games, he goes for over 20. So every game he's with Tua, he's almost a locked and loaded stud.
Yeah, killing it basically since week 8, 26, 32, 10 against the Rams, 20, the last 2 weeks.
AJ Brown, he finally broke that touchdown drought. He finally broke, out again. But, first 3 games of the year gives you at least 19 to over 20, and then he's been under 15 since, pops again for 22. What are we going to expect out of AJ Brown the rest of the way? Are we going to see him dominate the rest of the way, or is this going to continue to be the Saquon Barkley show? I know he has some good matchups, does AJ Brown, but he's had good. He didn't show up against Jacksonville, doesn't do anything against Dallas, goes for 109, doesn't find the end zone. Washington's a good matchup, 5 for 65. So it's not like, he's had good matchups and hasn't done anything, but the Eagles are winning to the point where he doesn't have to do anything. This defense is so good. Last year, there were a lot of shootouts. That's not happening anymore because Philly's defense, they've ascended past the first month of the year where they were rocky, and Vic Fangio has his young players playing outstanding football. So I don't know. I'd rather have Achane.
Yeah, plus Devonta was out last week, and we'll see if Devonta works his way back. But yeah, I think Achane overall is just going to be the more consistent option. All right, let's call it back up on the questions. We could talk about some more waiver pickups this week. Gus Edwards, we kind of talked about. We don't really know what the hell is going on with J.K. Dobbins at this point. So if you're going after one of these Chargers running backs, how are you doing this? Are you going to bump Kamani Vidal over Edwards and Haskins here? Kind of expecting Vidal to get back into the lineup this week and maybe get into the passing game. I guess I still slightly prefer Gus Edwards, but
what passing game is there for running backs? Like we know Dobbins wasn't a great, he might be the best pass catcher of he and Gus Edwards, but he wasn't like a target vacuum. Oddly enough, he had 5 targets this past week before the injury, but he's normally 1, 3, 2. He had a 7 back against New Orleans, but I don't know. To me, it's probably going to be Gus Edwards.
Yeah, what are you going to get from Gus? Right. What's his max? 10
he's
points?
Touchdown dependent.
So that's what I'm saying. Vidal maybe gives you a little bit more upside, but again,
I guess you're going to roll the dice.
Is he going to get work? Is he going to catch? Who the hell knows? Yeah, I don't know. I guess I would put in Edwards, and then if I don't get Edwards, I would put like a secondary bid on Vidal.
But what about Haskins?
I don't want Haskins.
I don't want Haskins either, but is he going to play over Vidal because he has that fucking Michigan connection?
Yeah,
that obviously matters to what's his name to Harbaugh.
Yeah, no, that is true, but I think they need a little bit more explosiveness. I mean, Dobbins wasn't necessarily explosive, but at least he was a little bit quicker and could break some big runs. I don't know. These two guys are just a bunch of stiffs. So
they should go sign Boston Scott. I think Boston Scott would be the best running back on this team if Dobbins is out.
I actually agree with you on that. I like Boston Scott.
I'm being funny, but I'm not being funny. I'm kind of being serious.
No, I like Boston Scott. Quarterback position. I mean, who the hell's out there this week? I mean, I guess you're going to prep for week 14. We got some buys coming in week 14. So yeah, who are you prepping for? Are you picking up Carr maybe? Are you picking up Will Levis? The other guys, I guess Aaron Rodgers could be out. He should be out there. Russ should probably be rostered at this point. Jameson Winston could be out there. Drake May should be rostered. Trevor Lawrence could be out there. Let's just go. Who would you rather have, Carr or Levis in week 14?
Well, Levis gets Washington, and that defense has been leaky. Levis has been good. And then you have Carr gets the Rams, and their secondary is not great. I think I would rather have Levis because I like his weapons more. But Derek Carr, it doesn't mean I don't hate Derek Carr. I do think this is I'm going to bet MVS to score another touchdown because I do think he scores again this week. But I think Levis, he's on a little bit of a roll right now.
Yeah, and his matchups are juicy. Yeah, but he also, what I was referencing was week 14, you got some more buys, right? So you're going to have guys like Jaden Daniels on a buy. Also, Drake May is going to be on a buy. Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud. So, yeah, I think Levis is the play. I think he's the pickup. Washington, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, Indy, Jacksonville. That is a very nice schedule. Even if Levis turns the ball over freaking 2 times a game, he could still give you up to 20 fantasy points. So
ever since I made him our group profile picture, he's been playing better.
Yeah, that's true. We had Joe Flacco up there before.
Not my choice, now, by the way.
But yeah, he is off the picture, and Anthony did put his boy Will Levis up there for the group picture, which is very interesting. Running backs, again, we talked about Gus Edwards, Jeremy McNichols. We don't know what the hell's going on in this Washington backfield either. They're bringing in Boston Scott. They're bringing in James Robinson, of all people, hoping to maybe, get another lightning in the bottle with these Achilles tears. I mean, so it sounds like there's some trouble there in Washington. Chris Rodriguez, I guess, is another name, but McNichols is a definite guy that I want to really go hard, especially you're trying to get into the playoffs. So I put a pretty decent amount on Jeremy Nichols.
Yep.
Anything after that, how much can you really expect? They have to buy in week 14, and then those running backs should be healthy, at least Eckler or Robinson by week 15.
McNichols is my number 1 running back this week. And obviously he's contingent on Eckler or B-Rob missing time. I think Roshan's fool's gold. And I like Roshan. And I see a lot of waiver articles on Roshan, and you should be, right? Like, I included him in my waiver video, but I don't think he's a top guy. He scored again this week, but if you look deeper into the numbers, he had 3 touches for 12 yards and a touchdown. The week before that, when I was more in on him because he had 10 for 33 and then 1 for 8, it looked closer to his early season usage when you could use him in a flex spot. Remember, he had a 3-game stretch, 2 of which over 10 PPR points, and he was getting over 10 touches. I thought we were going to get that again. Instead, we got that goal line carry. And then you get Detroit this week. And then San Francisco, and then you get Minnesota and Detroit and Seattle. The rest of season schedule for the Bears favors Caleb Williams, not the running backs. So I would prioritize, especially if you need to win now, Jeremy McNichols.
Yeah, long-term, Johnson's probably the better play because, he'll probably get more usage, like if those running backs come back for Washington. But this week, for sure, and you need to win, McNichols is the guy, 100%. And DeAndre Swift still is playing a little bit through a groin injury, so we'll see how – go ahead.
What about Abdullah? Because even if Madison Zamir comes back, I feel like Abdullah is carving out a role as a receiver. There's obviously the quarterback change, and these quarterbacks aren't as aggressive as Gardner. Maybe we start seeing 5 targets a game out of Abdullah. I don't know.
Aiden O'Connell is going to start this week with Minshew out for the year. Collarbone injury, and Desmond Ridder is a shit show. But we'll see if Madison and Zamir White don't get back. But yeah, Abdullah has been how many fantasy points did he put up last week? 16.
Yeah, double digits in 2 straight games. 2 straight games with the receiving touchdown. How bad do you got to be that Daniel Jones doesn't even want to fucking go and play? If you're the Raiders, like, how bad is that team? That Daniel Jones, no, I'd rather go sit on a bench for a playoff team. Which I guess makes sense.
What's the deal with Daniel Jones? Is somebody going to sign him, or what's going on with that?
It seems like I talked about this yesterday with Hoff on the show, that if Daniel Jones wants to play, the only spot's the Raiders. He obviously doesn't want to do that. He wants to sit behind a playoff team. I think that's a smart decision, right? Because there's nothing Daniel Jones can do this year to resurrect his reputation or anything else. But if you look at, the obvious suspects, you look at Baker and you look at Darnold, and who did they go and sit behind? Well, they went and they learned, even if it was a short time, behind Shanahan, behind McVay, and then maybe Daniel Jones just needs to go learn how to play quarterback from these guys. Maybe that's what he wants to do.
Yeah. Also, Tank Bigsby, maybe somebody dropped him. You can get him back. They're coming off the bye. Maybe he's healthier now, so maybe he gets more usage now coming off the bye week. It kind of splits time with Travis Etienne. That's something to watch out for. Pay attention to the news. We got a question here. Kamara or Gibbs from Christopher Adams, rest of the season.
That is an interesting picture, Chris.
Yeah, what is that? Is it like an alien just chilling on the couch? Yeah,
it's either
an alien just had a hard day of work, coming home, just posted up on the lazy boy or that big ass cushion couch. Kamara's schedule rest of the way. What do we have here? We got the Rams, the Giants, the Commanders, the Packers, and the Raiders. So pretty solid, I would say, right? For the most part.
Yeah. I like, Gibbs, right? Rest of season, nice schedule. You get Chicago twice, Green Bay, Buffalo, San Francisco. All easy matchups, believe it or not, against running backs. But on the other end, the schedule for their wide receivers, these are all easy matchups for running backs, these are all top 9 or better matchups for wide receivers, meaning they're bad matchups. I think this is going to be a run-centric team, a heavily, even more so down the stretch, given the matchups.
Yeah, I just feel like Gibbs is matchup proof. They could run on anybody.
No, but I'm saying he has good matchups compared to the wide receivers.
Oh, yeah. Chicago, Green Bay, Buffalo, Chicago, San Francisco. Yeah, Chicago's got those good corners. Buffalo obviously is very stingy against receivers as well. Yeah. Green Bay's, So, this is where – and plus the weather. I mean, think about it. They have to play in Chicago week 16. That could be a shitty weather game where they're going to have to run the ball a lot anyway. So, even San Francisco, I mean, you could get some winds and – some miserable weather in San Francisco as we head towards the winter months. Go ahead.
And when it's all said and done, Gibbs is attached to the better offense. He's attached to the better team. And now Montgomery's a little bit nicked up.
Yeah, what was the deal with that? Did he end up coming back in that game, Montgomery?
I don't think so. I'll check now. He's currently questionable with a shoulder injury, and he was limited in practice. Obviously, a short week. He left. And he did not return.
And he said he got offered Kamara and DK for Gibbs, but I don't necessarily need DK.
I don't want to do that deal. I want Gibbs.
You don't want to take DK plus Kamara?
If you don't need him?
I don't know, man. Kamara's fucking, I mean, he's still going to get a ton of usage and catch a ton of balls and plus you're getting DK, but I mean, if it's a 10-team league or an 8-team league and your team's stacked, it's, I do like Gibbs the rest of the way, but now you're giving me DK as well.
Gibbs is actually playing 52% of the snaps on the season to Montgomery's 41, and it's 52-40 in the past 4 games. So Gibbs is actually getting more run snap wise, for what that's worth. He's on a nice little touchdown run of his own. He has scored at least once in every game but one since the week 5 bye.
Yeah.
And even in that game, he still gave you a high floor of 12.8 PPR points. They're not even using him as a ton as a receiver. He's had fewer than 4 targets in every game since week 8, but he's still giving you a lot of points. Like, I don't know. I think Gibbs the guy I want here.
Yeah. Plus Montgomery, left that game in the third quarter with the shoulder injury. If he's out for a week or two, I mean, Gibbs with all the carries and all the touches, we might be seeing like Jamal Charles type numbers from him. Absolutely just going ape shit if he's going to get all the work. So, man, if you don't need DK, but it is kind of hard to pass up. But it's tough to say. KJ Frederick says, "What's up, guys? What's up, KJ?" Matt Tate says, struggling guys, MVS or Noah Brown this week. Really don't want to start Will Dissly in the flex. MVS or Noah Brown. He could use Will Dissly, though, sounds like.
MVS or Noah Brown. Let me see Dissly's. Dissly was a little bit disappointing last night. I get it. But I don't know. I feel like that Baltimore defense.
I don't mind MVS against the Rams. 49 total.
I love MBS. Is he risky? Yes, because he's going to get you like 3 or 4 targets. But I do think I said earlier, I'm going to take his touchdown bet for the 3rd week in a row. Disley gets the Falcons. Disley has a really nice rest of season schedule. Like I get like Baltimore, their past 2 weeks, their defense is getting better. I don't know if anybody noticed. They shut down Pittsburgh, didn't allow them to score. And this Chargers offense has been prolific. They kind of limited what this offense can do. So, like, I don't know if this defense is starting to come together at the right time. You got to remember there was a defensive coordinator change. But I don't know. If you want, Disley, I feel like it's a safer play. If you need the ceiling, go MVS. Noah Brown is getting some action too, but I don't know.
Yeah, the Rams let up. The Rams let up
47. So it wasn't for a tight end. 8.740 is not bad for a tight end.
Yeah, it's a tough call. I think MVS is, he's so risky. Like, he can give you a catch for 20 yards, or, he really only needs one catch. I mean, I would say the best comparison as far as speed, Jameson Williams had 5 catches for 121 yards. That was way back in week 1. But they also let up 175 to Juwan Jennings. They let up 115 to Jefferson. I mean, he kills everybody. 180 to Jackson Smith to Jigba. 109 to A.J. Brown last week. So, I mean, the freaking Saints probably will have to throw a good amount, 49 total. I don't mind MVS. Noah Brown isn't terrible. They're all kind of the same. But, maybe Disley's the safest there.
Yeah.
KJ Frederick says, what up, guys? Should I drop Leggett for Thielen, Vele, or Westbrook Akine? Also, should I drop Algier for Jeremy McNichols full PPR? Leggett for Thielen. Freaking David Moore went off this week. I mean, blast from the past. What the hell was that? I mean, this guy, David Moore. I don't know, man. I would still rather have Leggett over Thielen the rest of the way. But as far as Vele and Westbrook Akine, maybe one of those two. I think I would hold on to Leggett, though. Let me look at the snaps here, what they did this week.
I would probably rank Westbrook, Vele, and then one of the Carolina Panthers. I don't know. Like, for what it's worth, Bryce Young is playing better football right now.
Yeah, he is.
Since the benching. He is getting a little bit better, but he's also spread, last year he was hyper targeting Adam Thielen. That's not happening. He's spreading the ball out a little bit more. And plus, this is Chuba Hubbard's offense.
Yeah, and Leggett did run the most routes, 97%. David Moore was at 95%. Leggett was 4 for 56. Thielen was 3 for 57. So, yeah, it's a little bit spread out. I still like Leggett over. I think I like Leggett out of all those 3 guys. Even though Keeney's on fire, it's a good schedule. So, if I was going to go for one, I'd probably, like we said before, if you wanted to go for a Keeney over Leggett, I don't mind that.
Yeah.
And he also wants to know if he should drop Algier for McNichols. And if you need a win this week, yes. 100%.
Algier from I'm with you right there because we think McNichols going to get some run. I'm going to assume one of Eckler or B-Rob are out, and if they're both out, you're probably looking at a full workload.
If you're a Bijan owner, maybe you don't want to do that, but if you need a win, I think that's what you got to do. Chubb, Matt Tate says Chubb versus Denver or Swift versus the Lions. Interesting. Swift could catch a bunch of balls this week. But again, Roshan is taking the playing time away from him ever since Thomas Brown has come into town. Chubb, 2 touchdowns last week. 20 carries. Only ran 8 routes. Jerome Ford is running more routes than him. Ran 6 more routes. But I think I like Chubb, man. I just trust Nick Chubb more, even against Denver.
It's a revenge game, obviously, for DeAndre Swift. 2 out of his past 3 games, he's cooling down into single digits in PPR points. He's losing that goal line work to Roshan, and this is not a good matchup against Detroit. Detroit, number 2 against running backs. Chubb did show some signs of life, but without those 2 touchdowns, he's 20 for 59. And Denver's middle of the pack. Again, but what did I say earlier about this game? This game is either going to be a Denver blowout, but I kind of see it being more of a bloodbath, which means there could be a heavy workload for Chubb. The fact that they gave Chubb 21 touches, that tells me they trust that he's healthy. So I might lean Chubb here. I'll go with you here.
Yeah, I like Chubb as well. And then again, he's getting the goal line touches, and Swift's not. Roshan's getting those goal line touches now. So Trump Force says Dan Campbell said Monty could have returned, but he told him that they have bigger fish to fry. Campbell did today that Monty and Amon-Ra should play Thursday. Thanks for that, Trump Force. Appreciate the update. Trump Force says he could also added that he could keep Monty out of this game against the Bears. So maybe he's doing some wordplay here. Maybe he's just trying to, keep the opponent a little off guard here, which is possible. Maybe it's a more significant injury than he's leading on. We'll have to stay tuned to that. Mandy H says, I wanted to pick up David Moore. I am just not sure he will continue. Nah, forget about David Moore. I mean, This guy's been around for years. He had one good game out of nowhere.
If he has another good game, it's just it's hard to predict these players who come out of. It's like when Chris Conley has his one game of the year.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm not buying David Moore. Matt Tate says favorite waiver kickers.
Well, here, I'm going to put Hoff's video in the comment section, but I'll tell you right now, if Lutz is on waivers, he'd be the guy. Or go pick up Washington's kicker. He actually did well. Washington's kicker did well with Seibert on IR. Seibert's back on IR. I think it's Zane Gonzalez, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I'll throw Hoff's video in the chat so you can check it out.
Even Young Ho might be out there. He was kind of struggling. Maybe he takes the bye week a little bit better this week. Matt Gay isn't bad against the Patriots this week. McPherson. I don't think you want to go back to McPherson. He was a disaster last game. So yeah, I don't mind going back to the Washington kicker. Maybe Joshua Carty for the Rams against New Orleans. But yeah, check out Hoff's video. Definitely will lead you the right path. Link is below. Matt Tate says, quick note, kickers versus the Raiders are money. So there you go.
So that's Schrader this week.
Jay Schrader, remember him?
Quarterback
for the Raiders. All right, back to the waivers, man. You want to talk about some receivers now? We talked about Vele. We talked about MVS.
Yes.
How about
Westbrook? We talked about.
How about this one? Dontavian Wicks. Romeo Doubs suffered a concussion against the Niners, and he was like fourth on that list. It was Watson and Dobbs, then it was Jaden Reed, and then Wicks was basically just getting barely any snaps. So now he gets a big bump. I think this is a guy you want to go and add 100%. Dontavian Wicks.
You like him against Miami this week?
Yeah, definitely.
They're number one.
Yeah, but you got three options there, and also it's going to be a back and forth game with Waddle, Tyreek. So this could be a little bit of a shootout. I think this might be a good spot for Wicks. And we've seen this in the past from Wicks where, he's kind of like, the under the radar guy. And, he should get the third most routes this week. I think it's a good pickup.
Yeah. I mean, in a spot start, like that, the game does scare me because yes, it should be a shootout, but that Rams game should have also been a shootout. And what if we see a slower, because Josh Jacobs, Devin Achane, the strength of both of these defenses is defending the pass. Both of these defenses are also leaky against running backs. What if this is a weird running back battle and defensive battle? I see that outcome as well. I don't mind the Wicks pickup because he'll see the lesser coverage. But if this is a long-term injury, I don't mind stashing Wicks either because after Miami, Detroit, Seattle, New Orleans, Minnesota. So 4 very exploitable matchups if Wicks gets to time after Miami.
Yeah, and last time Dobbs was out against the Rams, he only was 2 for 20, but he did see 7 targets in that game. He had a couple drops as well. So, yeah, I would, there's worse options out there. If you're going to give me, Adam Thielen or Jalen Coker or something like that, I'm going for Dontavian Wicks. Even Westbrook Akine, as good as he's been, I still maybe would go for Wicks, possibly. I mean, it's hard to go. It's hard to go against Westbrook Akine, though. He's been so damn hot. Again, all he does is score touchdowns. Some other guys, I guess. Demario Douglas, is he still out there? We talked about Noah Brown a little bit. Elijah Moore, Alec Pierce, Adonai Mitchell, Michael Pittman's like all banged up. So any names that pop off there between those guys?
I don't mind Pierce, but he's like MVS, where he's going to get you a couple of targets, and you better hope he catches the ones he gets, because if he do, they're going to be big plays. Like, how many 100-yard and touchdown games have we seen from Alec Pierce this year?
Yeah. Tight end, we talked about Lou Schoonmaker with Ferguson with the concussion. He's not going to play on Thanksgiving. Not enough time to get back. And then the other big one, Anthony, is Noah Gray. 4 touchdowns his last 2 games after 4 touchdowns in his first career 59 games. So this is a guy that's kind of been waiting in the wings, learning the process, playing behind Travis Kelce. And, now that he's been there so long, and with the lack of explosive options, Worthy kind of in his rookie season, Hopkins, past his prime, Kelce older now, he's been, one of the better options. So, I mean, Noah Gray, man, not even in just tight end premium. I feel like this is a guy that you got to go take a shot on in most leagues.
Like 2 out of the next 3 games, you get Vegas, their 30th this week. And then week 15, you get Cleveland 27th against tight ends. This Kansas City offense, all of a sudden, it has a bunch of guys again, right? It's not just, okay, we got to stop Kelce. Well, you got Hopkins, you got Kelce, Pacheco, Hunt, Juju's back as a 3, and he's going to be a good 3, right? Because he's been the 1. And then they got Worthy. And all of a sudden, okay, like Noah Gray is just leaking open. Yeah. You're not going to cover everybody, and it's Mahomes. He's hot again, 3 touchdowns passing in 3 straight games. I'm probably starting Noah Gray this week in a couple of spots. I'm going to ride this touchdown roll he's on.
Yeah, 21 routes last week, 50%. Kelce ran 37 routes. He ran more routes than Justin Watson. Xavier Worthy had 32 routes. He ran just as many routes as Juju, and he ran more routes than DeAndre Hopkins.
I think he's going to be the heir apparent.
Yeah.
So if you're in a dynasty league, go fucking get Noah Gray and stash him.
I'm pretty sure he was a pretty high pick too, wasn't
he? I think he was a second
or third rounder. Yeah. Mandy says, I'm not buying it to Wicks again with the laughing face. I mean, I feel you on that. He was like the guy after he had that one huge game. Everybody and their mother in fantasy football was talking about Dontavian Wicks. You got to add him. And then he did the absolute shit. He was a huge sleeper, coming into this year. But again, with Dobbs out, I'm willing to take a chance if I need, if I'm in a kind of a desperate situation. Matt Tate says, big game coming from Cade Otton. A little bit of a letdown versus the Giants.
It was a tough matchup, and they didn't have to throw the ball. Baker almost throws for 300 yards in a game. They didn't have to air it out. We had 3 different running backs score a touchdown. It was dominated by Bucky Irving. If that game was a little bit more competitive, maybe we see more action from Cade Otton. But again, I blame that more on game script and matchup. I am not dropping Cade Otton. This offense is too prolific, and he's probably the number 2 pass-catching option in that offense.
Yeah, and they get the Panthers, who are the worst team against tight ends, I believe.
Yeah.
One of the worst. So, yeah, I mean, can a guy have one bad week or, one slow week, So, yeah, just be patient. I know Mike Evans is back, but again, there's really nobody else. So, yeah, this is a good spot for Otton to bounce back against the Titans, who, again, are the worst team in fantasy against tight ends. Mandy H says, I put up the Broncos defense instead of Texans last week, and I lost my week by 2 points, laughing my freaking ass off.
It's the way it's fantasy football sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's been so many times where I'm going through my lineups and I make one last second change. Like this week, I had a choice between Waddle and Alec Pierce, and I went with Alec Pierce, and I look like an asshole.
Well, I was on Waddle this week.
I've been on Waddle. I've been waiting for a while. I'm looking at him 6 points, 7 points. But yeah, he was due. We did talk about his history against New England last week.
I didn't see him going for 30, like 28 or whatever. I didn't see that big of a game, but I figured he was going to give us 15.
Yeah, I mean, I figured, and then I think Richardson missed Pierce wide open in the beginning of the game. Could have maybe been a touchdown, but I figured he'd be throwing a ton. It just never clicked. Mandy H says, I want to pick up Noah Gray. He's been pretty consistent, but I already have Taysom Hill and Tucker Kraft. You're not going to drop Taysom Hill, but would you drop Tucker Kraft for Noah Gray? I still don't think I would do that. What do you think?
That's close. Because Kraft even found the end zone in San Francisco, which I did not see happening. But he's a big part of that offense right now in Green Bay. Doesn't get a lot of volume, but they do use him when he's on the field and in crucial situations in the red zone. I don't know if I do that. It's risky because I like Noah Gray a lot. I'm just not willing to drop Kraft.
Yeah, and Kraft's a really good player in his own right. Jamie, our boy, says, "What's up, guys?" By the way, Jamie releases a wide receiver cornerback article every week. Something you should check out. Matt Tate says, "Big Bo or tiny, mighty Kyler?" Bo Nix versus Kyler Murray this week in fantasy. Kyler, man, I can't figure this freaking guy out. He looks good, then he sucks, then he looks good again, then he sucks. So his consistency factor isn't the best. I think we got to pull up Phil Caldwell's Maybe we should have Phil do a video on that. Bo Nix versus Kyler Murray on consistency. That might be a good one. But Bo Nix, man, he's not even running as much anymore, and he's still putting up fantasy points. So who do you like this week between the two? Denver gets Cleveland at home on Monday night, 41.5 total. And Arizona is playing Minnesota in Mini, 44.5 total.
I was all in on Kyler this week. Big time letdown. I don't know what I'm going to expect out of this Minnesota secondary because they're a good front seven. They like to send pressure, and Bo Nix is. I feel like he's the safer choice right now. Even against Cleveland, Bo Nix is a 5-game run with over 18 quarterback points. He doesn't really turn it over. So you're not looking at a lot of negative. Even if he has a bad game, I think he still provides a high floor.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of due for like a regressive game. Bo Nix is kind of due for like a shitty game, but they're at home on Monday night. Is it going to happen then? Against Cleveland, where they should get a lot of possessions because Winston may have 2 or 3 turnovers against that defense. I agree, man. I think I like Bo Nix as well. And Mandy says Bo Nix or Jordan Love for week 13.
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix once again.
I mean, Jordan Love, we talked about this earlier. The Packers this is like reminding me of the Packers offense. LaFleur was there last few years with Aaron Rodgers. They were more running, play good defense, and the quarterback was playing more efficient football. What did I say earlier? In 3 out of the past 4 games, he's only completed 14 or less passes, and they're winning those games.
Yeah. Also, Green Bay this week, temperatures are going to be like in the 20s. So that's normally not good for Tua. His record in like cold weather games is pretty brutal.
That's what I mean. That's why I'm worried about the passing game in this football game.
Right. It could be true. 47 total though. So we'll see if Tua, at the press conference, he said he likes to go against narratives. I mean, it's not really a narrative because you're 1-8 in like cold temperature games. So
did he go watch that playoff game last year against Kansas City?
Yeah, so exactly. So he's got something to prove here. That's going to be a really good game though, for sure. Miami, Green Bay. That's games on Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Is it?
I think that's a Thursday night
game.
Yeah, so that's going to be fun to watch, some cold temperatures. But, I don't mind if you want to use Bo Nix. Again, might be a little bit safer, but I don't mind Jordan Love. I still trust Jordan Love for fantasy, despite, Josh Jacobs taking away freaking 3 touchdowns on the ground. He could get a couple more passing this week, against Miami. A couple more questions, then we'll wrap it up. Matt Tate says, any chance we can get a 20-point game from Neighbors rest of the year? What are the Giants going to do? Are they going to go back to Drew Lock at some point? Are they going to continue to roll out Tommy Cutlets, he burnt the Cutlets this weekend? He fucked up the Cutlets.
I think they're going to try to ride out. They don't want to win games, right? They probably want to tank. They probably want to get a future quarterback in the NFL draft. Drew Lock potentially helps them win more football games. And unlike the Cowboys, the Giants actually want to tank correctly, in my opinion. Neighbors has and I was on, I don't know, I'm sure if you're a listener of this show, I was telling people to sell Neighbors right after the Andrew Thomas injury. He hasn't done a damn thing since. High floor player, getting a lot of targets, not giving you much else. He hasn't had a red zone target since before the bye.
Yeah, I mean, can we get a 20-point game out of him? It's certainly possible. Dallas this week, New Orleans, Baltimore, Atlanta, Indy. So those are games where they, maybe not against Dallas, but it's possible New Orleans, Baltimore, Atlanta. It could be a lot of throwing and Indy. So it's possible. He could finish strong. I mean, it wasn't terrible this week. 6 for like 60 or something like that?
But that's what he's been getting since the Andrew Thomas injury.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's a good bet on the 20-point the rest of the way. Jamie says Dowdle under 68.5 rushing yards. He only covers his over 33% of the time.
And they get the Giants this week. I think Dowdle could potentially have a career, with the way how bad the Giants run defense. I mean, look what Bucky Irving just looked like fucking Warwick Dunn.
Man, Bucky Irving is
he's a good running back, but
yeah.
I mean, the Giants made Bucky Irving look like vintage Warwick Dunn, Mike Allstott wrapped into one player.
The Giants, man, they may be just, like you said, this could be just an absolute fold. I mean, it's a shit show. Watching Saquon go off on that, in Philly, and Daniel Jones is cut from the team. It's getting close. I mean, it's not as bad as the Jets, but it's pretty close. It might be actually in some ways might be worse. Jamie says, should we take Neighbors over 5.5 receptions? Only went under 5 receptions twice on Thanksgiving against the Cowboys. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I think he still can go. I mean, he's gone over that in every game this year, but 2, which one was in week 1, was in week 7. He's gone over 5.5 in every other game.
Week 4 against the Cowboys, 12 for 115.
Yeah. That was the Malik Neighbors show.
Yeah. Last couple of weeks, the Cowboys, I've only let 2 receivers, AJ Brown catch 5. Noah Brown caught 6. McLaurin caught 5, but they've been pretty good as far as receptions. But again, you don't really need to throw against the Cowboys that much because their offense isn't doing shit. So not a terrible one. Couple more thoughts on Garrett Wilson the rest of the year. I feel like he was on a heater the last 2 games than Hughes does. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, he killed me for sure. I mean, the Jets are a shit show, but now they get a bye week off. I don't know this Woody Johnson thing. They interviewed Rodgers today on the Pat McAfee show. He said he doesn't know if he wants to come back, but if he does come back, it's with the Jets. Supposedly the Woody thing in him is, overplayed. But a bye week off, they're going to want to look good. They're going to want to bounce back. It's Thanksgiving week. The holidays are going to come around. They want to, get these freaking New York fans a little bit. So go to Garrett Wilson. I wouldn't give up on him. Some big weeks, I think, down the stretch are coming ahead. What do you think?
No, I'm not giving up on the Jets yet. Even if they turn to Tyrod Taylor, Wilson has, we're seeing his breakout a little bit this year. And Devontae Adams, and him being there is probably helping Garrett Wilson a little bit.
Yeah. Manny says, I traded Neighbors. He's a great player. After what he said in the locker room interview, I think he should stay on your bench or trade if you can. Yeah. I mean, Anthony, again, was talking about trading him freaking, 6-7 weeks ago? So Jaden Vera says, should I drop Justin Tucker for John Parker Romo? I mean, I don't know. I would just rather keep Justin Tucker.
Yeah. I mean, you would think he's going to get back on track. Yeah, I'm not ready to give up on Justin Tucker. You would think that, he's a Hall of Fame kicker.
And Manny says, continue what you're saying. He's a great player, but he can't do shit. He even said it himself in the locker room interview. Listen to the man himself. All right. Armin says, hello, should I drop Abdullah Disley or Nick Westbrook-Akine for McNichols?
Abdullah Disley or Nick Westbrook-Akine? I would drop Abdullah, I think.
Well, if you have another tight end, you could probably drop Disley, right? And you want to keep
his
Abdullah.
Schedule's really strong rest of season.
But you'd probably want to keep the back. Again, maybe Abdullah kind of wins the job. Maybe he kind of takes over as the guy. maybe.
But he's really just been a pass catcher for his whole career. That's all,
Yeah.
because he's been playing a lot of snaps. He's not getting volume.
He was a first-round pick. He says he
Was
has
he
Ott. He
really?
says he has Otten as well.
Oh, I forgot of the Lions.
Yeah.
Wow.
2015, I think it was.
Yeah.
First
I
round
mean, the
pick.
Lions had a weird run of like early round Javid Best.
Javid Best, yeah. I liked Javid Best. I liked Abdullah when he came out.
Mhm.
David Wilson was another speedy guy that I liked that never. Remember he had that horrible injury?
Yeah.
All right, 2 more, and we'll wrap it up. Bonus: start Buffalo D or Minnesota D, and also what vape flavor are you using it?
This is a. It's made by Pasha Mama, and it's a starfruit, grape, apple, and mandarin. Today,
Damn,
Yeah.
sounds good.
it's good. No, it's good.
So Buffalo D or Minnesota D this week.
I mean,
Buffalo
Pete-
gets the Niners and potentially, well, it looks like Purdy's coming back, so no more of that horrendous Brandon Allen shit. And then Minnesota is getting Arizona and Kyler Murray.
I would probably go. Ooh, that's tough. Well, check out Pete does his waiver wire defense. He does defense rankings. That would, and the videos are in the archives right now for this week. I would defer to that. If we had to pick one, I probably would lean. I would probably lean Buffalo, but again, defer because he might be like talking about because he's pretty good with his hit rate on waiver wire defenses. Maybe there's somebody in the wire you can pick up that'll give you a little bit more stability.
Yeah, Minnesota gets Arizona this week. Then they get Atlanta, Chicago, Seattle, Green Bay, and then Buffalo gets Niners and Rams, Detroit, New England, and Jets. All right, last question. Thoughts on Mooney against the Chargers? And Mooney did have that hamstring injury coming into the bye. Again, we got to pay attention to that. We don't know how healthy he is. It's possible he may not even play this week. So what do you think if he does it? If he is out there?
I think he's playable if he's active, but they're downplaying the injury. We haven't heard much yet, but I think you fire him up.
Yeah. A lot of snow in Buffalo coming, so we'll have to pay attention to that.
That makes me like that defense even more.
This is the time. Yeah, Buffalo, even against the Niners, they'll make some plays.
Yeah.
Very nice flavor. And have a great night, Armin says. And Mandy also says, thanks for the solid advice, guys, in the chat. Have a good night. We appreciate you, Mandy. Come back again. And that is it. About an hour 30 here.
We'll be back Thanksgiving morning with our live Q&A, either 9 or 10 a.m. So stay tuned. We'll make some kind of announcement about that. But, we have start-sit videos and other types of videos dropping tomorrow. And the mediators, as usual, will be on tomorrow night. But for Steve and myself, this is the Face Off Sports Network. If we don't talk to you, happy Thanksgiving. We'll see you next time.